What?
What do dogs do when they finish obedience school?
I don't know.
They get their masters. You're trying
Can
hard not to
can
laugh,
we
I can
start the
tell.
episode now?
welcome, welcome to VetMed for Idiots by Idiots. I'm your host, Corey, the Common Idiot, with my co-host Kent. I don't have a cool nickname today. Morton
Can we go with
and
regrets his life decisions?
Kent regrets his life's decision. Morton. Dr. Kent regrets his life's
Yes, yes.
decisions. Morton. And we are actually talking about preventative care, preventative medicine, um, and the importance of it. And I just kind of like as a parallel, like I remember when I turned 16, my dad and actually my stepdad too, Brian, who we've discussed on the show, and like of course my dad Dave, uh, both were very heavy about like you take care of your car takes care of you. You know, make sure you're changing your oil all the time, make sure you're watching your spark plugs, make sure you're looking at your tires, you know, changing belts when they need to be changed, you know, whatever the manufacturer's suggestions are. And that definitely helps the car last much longer and does a lot less damage than down the road where it's like, okay, I'm not going to get my oil changed. Then all of a sudden you just threw a rod, and instead of a, you know, $50 oil change, it's now a $3,000 engine repair or engine overhaul. And I'm assuming it's similar like that
It's
with
it's
dogs.
it's not different, honestly. I regularly refer to myself as an animal mechanic. I mean, but that's like a really good comparison, right? Because like
Mhm.
just like with your doctor, I mean, God, who's the guy? There's an author who has like
McClellan.
what was that?
Ian McClellan.
No, author.
Dirk Diggler.
That's a fake porn star.
Mm.
Terry Gilliam, maybe? No, that's not right. It
Terry
really who it
Gilliam.
is.
He was the Monty Python.
Well, yeah, and he's also a, like director and writer,
Yeah,
and
one
like
of the Monty Python, not the only Monty Python.
I recently found out John Cleese sucks, and it broke my heart.
Really?
Yeah, apparently he's anti-trans.
Oh, that's terrible. Well,
Yeah.
he was always my second favorite anyway. Michael Palin was always number one for me.
Anyway, it just sucks because if you live long enough, everyone will disappoint you eventually.
Except for Angela Bassett. She will never disappoint
Angela
us.
Bassett is never a disappointment. In fact, actually, the only disappointment with Angela Bassett is she has yet to come on the show.
Yes. So again, if you know her, order out to the show. We will have her on.
We will talk about whatever topic she wants to.
Yep.
Anyway, so there's a quote by someone, and it's about the cost of being poor. He talks about like, you know, you buy a pair of boots that are $3 that last you one season, but a pair that's $10 would last you a lifetime. Clearly, this was not recently, because if you can get a pair of boots for $3, but one of the things he brings up is ignore the toothache now, get a root canal later.
Right.
So like, you know, things like that in medicine really, really come into play. Um, you know, like putting off like senior blood work, because it's expensive now means we have an emergency visit later where I found what I could have found earlier and could have started treating. Things like that.
Right.
So yeah, like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Right.
And that is a true statement.
Absolutely. And we've talked about this several times on the show, but we feel that it's important enough that we're going to do a full episode.
Yeah, I think a couple of the minis we could have just cobbled together into this
Yeah.
and then just
Yeah.
released it as its own standalone episode. But no, let's like just re-record the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Now they do have there is the unhinged episode where I didn't cut anything from when we did our minis, because we did our minis all as one block and then just chopped it up.
Yeah.
I was making that noise as I was editing it. but uh, this will be a little bit more defined, little
Yeah, well, and
slightly better.
longer, more in
Yeah,
depth.
longer is not necessarily a good sell when it comes to hearing our voices, though.
No, 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 and we aren't exactly fun to look at either. So
Yeah, yeah. Now that we're doing video, so if I come in and I bring in Banks, and I just come in and I want preventative medicine, what are the things that really need to check all those boxes?
well, and so first, vet care starts when you're a puppy, right? So getting your proper vaccine series taken care of when they're younger is really, really important. Um, I cannot tell you how many times people come in and I mean, I see a lot of parvo dogs. Apparently, I like attract it. Like parvo and mosquitoes are like the things that come to me a lot. Um, anyway, so like, but people think parvo is a puppy disease, so they're like, oh, my dog's one, he doesn't need a vaccine. I actually just worked with a good friend who I used to work with when we did emergency. The oldest parvo dog he's ever seen is 5.
Hmm.
The oldest I've seen is 12.
Oh wow.
I Yeah, I actually don't know how you get to, but those always came in when we were on emergency, right? Like you
Hmm.
don't. It's not really like a common GP thing to see like a 12
Right.
dog with parvo, because a lot of times when you're working GP, you're not taking new clients, and those people just sometimes don't have a vet when they've gotten that far into a dog's life and
Right.
have never gotten a parvo vaccine. There's a reason for it, right?
Right. And unfortunately, like how many of them, like, oh, my dog was 10, got parvo, and just instead of me doing anything important for it and trying to take care of it, I just let my dog die. And of course, you'd never know about it because they never brought that dog, in
Yeah.
to be treated. So, it's an unreported statistic that, it'd be kind of interesting to know how many uh, do go uh, that way
Dogs with
because
no
of,
veterinary care
yeah, because of
get
lax.
parvo and like die at home.
Yeah, parvo. I mean, there's a ton of just easily avoided diseases just by doing vaccinations.
Yeah, well, I mean that's what vaccines are for. That and to make sure that I can buy a new Mercedes every year because I'm in the pocket of big pharma, right?
Yeah, good old big
Um,
pharma.
yeah,
By the
they
way,
they they pay
and-
me to vaccinate dogs so they all get like asthma.
yeah. By the way, how's that 2016 Focus treating you? Oh,
2018
sorry,
Edge.
2018 Edge. Totally different. Way better.
With 139,000 miles. Seriously, my car almost has as many miles on it as Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, but it doesn't just stop in the middle of
No, it
driving, though.
still runs. Um, he's old. Anyway, but like, so every place that you go for a parvo case is going to be a little different. They're going to have their own protocols for how they treat that. When I see a parvo case, like they come in, they get put right into a room. If they don't want to do a parvo test, they go somewhere else. If it's suspect parvo, like it's getting a
Hmm.
parvo test right away because it's a really, really infectious disease, and I have puppies come into my building. So like
Right.
containing it, making sure that I can sanitize any area that it's been adequately is super important. Um,
And we talked about this in the parvo episode, like how easily
yeah,
it spreads and how lethal it is, and like Banks was a parvo puppy, and it's amazing that 3 of the 4 of his litter survived.
yeah. Well, and I mean, with treatment, it's really, really survivable, which is the sad thing.
But he
But
was
I mean,
days old too. They were
oh yeah,
literally a few days old.
and they do tend to get it more often when they're puppies. One, we have a vaccine. Two, they're not immune.
Hmm.
So yeah, like it, and again, it's all stuff we've talked about before. I bring up parvo because it's a really good example. Like a lot of times, when I was in working in South Bend, we'd transfer him to the emergency room, and it'd be maybe like 2 or 3 grand a treat. But that was like in 2016. Inflation is a bitch, and now when I transfer these parvo dogs to an emergency room, because a lot of times they need 24-hour care, and that's not something you can
Right.
provide. It's $5,000 to $6,000 sometimes these days.
Hmm.
um
And
and
how much is a parvo shot?
30 bucks.
So $30 now or $10,000 later.
Yeah, you could easily burn 10 grand trying to treat parvo.
Or
um
I mean, what's a youth like 150?
oh no, like I mean it all depends on weight and like what options you pick, right?
Right.
Like there's community burial, and do you want the ashes back, and every crematorium will have a variety of like urns and stuff if you want them
Hmm.
back to like get your dog back.
Right.
And so like it varies, but we can say anywhere from like 3 to 500 for a youth.
And not to ignore the tragedy of losing a dog, especially if it's like,
No, I mean,
a beloved member of and a beloved pet, which is far worse than taking that $500 hit.
no, I completely agree with that. And I mean, um, most places too do youth at like cost to the hospital. So like when I give those numbers, I know people are probably like angry typing as I say this stuff. You're making the money. It's like no, most places do it for free. The only
Right.
places that make money off it are the crematoriums the hospitals use, because that
Hmm.
is their business. So
Right.
they charge the hospital. The hospital charges you what they have to pay the crematorium.
Exactly. And yeah, so don't buy into the anti-vaccine. Um,
No,
definitely, definitely don't listen to the worm in your brain that says not to use, not to avoid vaccinations or
I
not to get vaccinations.
I kind of wish dogs got polio so we could do an episode about the history of the polio vaccine. Because it's about to like be extinct, and was one of the
Yeah.
most terrifying diseases in American history. So, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Eh, let's bring back let's like normalize the bubonic plague too while we're at it. I mean,
I'm yeah,
go fun, you know.
I'm super excited to get tuberculosis. Like I've my goal in my teens was to die like a Dickensian orphan. So
But yeah, seriously, if you're an anti-vaxxer, stay the fuck away from me because I don't want that shit. Um, it's really hard not to make fun of RFK. Like I should take the high road and not make fun of him based on that on his the way he talks, but I know that's because of all of like shit life decisions for him. So I really don't feel bad about when I talk about the way he talks.
I
Fuck
can't
him.
stand listening to him talk. There's a comedian who does an impression of him, and she was like, my mom was like, "That's terrible. Like, what if God strikes you down and you get the same? It's called echo dysphonia, I think, is what he has."
Mhm.
And her response was like, "I hope I get it, because then my impression will be fucking lit." It was like, good answer, good answer.
So we're gonna jump off of the political here for probably for a little bit. I don't think we've never once hid where we are on the political spectrum. We do try to tend to make it more about the animals than we do the people, but at the same
I will
time, sometimes
argue.
there's overlap when you look at like the
Yeah,
bird
there's
flu and cost of food, which we're gonna have Dr. Aaron back down the road to talk about
cost of
uh,
food and
cost of food. Yep.
regulations on the food industry. I will say, like, I mean, my opinions on RFK are 100% apolitical. It's just like it's been made a political thing.
Yeah.
And like,
Well,
yeah,
science is political
yeah.
anymore.
The fact that science is political is baffling to me.
Hmm. But I mean, you can double it back too. Like refusing to get preventative care almost becomes like a political a political stance in and of itself. Like, so you have these dogs that are dying at the ripe old age of 5, 6, 7 because they're dying of very simple, very treatable, very avoidable diseases like rabies, like parvo, like other ones we've talked about and I can't remember, brucella,
Well,
titus.
well, Brucella is pretty uncommon, unless you're drinking raw milk, which is disgusting, and I'm gonna get more hate mail. I'm just actually just for
Well,
hate
I mean,
mail now.
he's very
Uh,
pro. A lot of that side is very pro raw milk too. So
um, God damn it. No, so actually, like, I when I was in uh, early in my career, I had a client come in and her breeder had told her not to get the lepto vaccine. Lepto, it's a spirochete bacteria. One of the sexier bacteria, as we discussed in season 1. Um, anyway, um,
yeah,
and it's
right,
transmitted through urine, and it's
right.
zoonotic. Um, so as far as that goes, of course, breeder says don't get my dog lepto because every breeder in the world thinks the breed that they breed is susceptible to lepto, but there is, or I'm sorry, susceptible to lepto vaccine
Is
reactions. Um,
yeah.
which lepto is one of our more reactive vaccines. That's why we
Hmm.
don't do it to a certain age. Um, that being said, the vaccine is a bajillion, that's the real number, a bajillion times less threatening than the disease. Um, there is not a single thing in the world that we vaccinate for that is the vaccine is worse than the disease. Like, one of the reasons we don't vaccinate for smallpox anymore is because the vaccine for smallpox is really, really reactive and really
Hmm.
dangerous, but it's still better than smallpox. But we don't vaccinate for it anymore because we eradicated smallpox. So, like, the only
Right.
place that smallpox exists is in like 3 labs, where they're probably testing it to be a bioweapon to wipe out people in different countries. Anyway,
Which is really disappointing because video games and movies have taught me that any bioweapons that's going to happen that's created in the lab is going to be zombies. And like, if the world does not end because of zombies and it's just like smallpox,
everyone's
that'll
just
be
like,
so fucking disappointing. Anyway, moving on for reals this time. Looking at preventative care, obviously
wait.
vaccination.
I was in the middle of a story and I got sidetracked.
God damn it! All right, follow the breadcrumbs.
Anyway, so of course this person says like, don't give my dog the lepto vaccine. We don't because I can't force you to do anything. Although it is against medical advice, except for under very specific circumstances. Anyway, so we don't give the lepto vaccine. Dog gets lepto. Dog's hospitalized. Owner spends thousands of dollars. Her puppy dies. I kid you not. This owner gets a new puppy and comes in and goes verbatim, I will do anything to prevent lepto. What can I do? I say, get the vaccine. The next words out of her mouth. Do you want to guess?
Uh, no to that vaccine.
Yeah, she's my breeder told me not to.
Well,
Like,
that sounds like a very cutthroat breeder. Like, hey, let's send out my puppies into the world. Let them get attached. Really love these puppies. Let's make sure the puppies die because of lack of vaccination, and then they have to come back to me, and that's how they create the repeat customers.
Yeah, that's actually probably true. Another owner came to me with like research that her breeder had given to her, and like all the websites were at the tops of the pages, and so I looked
Mhm.
one of them up because it was like, it was literally a blogspot web page, and I was like,
Well,
okay, like I'm in the room, and I'm like, so apart from this like anti-Lyme vaccine article on here, do you realize this website also has, and I kid you not, Harry Potter erotic fan fiction? Uh, like that person had very specific interests.
it's less scientifically reliable than Wikipedia,
I mean, like, but like,
or
actually,
academically less academically reliable than Wikipedia.
there's a world where like the interests of the anti-vax community and the interests of wanting to listen to Harry Potter fuck cross. And it was in that blog spot post, and that is my favorite. But like, I mean, you can find anything on the internet, right? And I always use that as a really good example.
Rule 34.
Yeah, you rule 34 is that, yeah, there is some anti-vaxxer out there who also loves watching Harry Potter fuck. Anyway, okay, now we can move on.
So we talked about vaccination. The next one, because I know this one's an important one to you, is dental care.
Ah, yes. And we're gonna do, I think we have it planned for season 4 right now. We're gonna do a full episode on dentistry. But
I can't wait. I will be riveted. I'll keep it entertaining. Don't worry.
um, but we're actually gonna have like a dentist on to talk about that, like a board certified dentist, someone better than a schlub like me. Anyway, like, but dental care is super important. I mean,
Mhm.
I tell people don't realize how important dental care is to overall body health. Um, but like, did you ever watch the TV show Angel?
No.
Now, there's an actor from that TV show who
Was that the
died.
spinoff of Buffy the
Buffy,
Vampire
yeah.
Slayer? Okay. You know what? I did watch a little bit when it first came out, but
Okay, yeah. Then you probably don't remember the green
mm-mm.
demon guy.
I only remember David Boring Anus or whatever his name is.
Yes, David Boring Anus is who played Angel.
Yes.
Um, anyway, there was an actor from Angel who passed away in his I want to say early 30s, but it was secondary to a complication of a tooth root abscess.
I was gonna say that's because it's right here. If you get that infection in your
Pumps that,
teeth,
yeah, pumps it right
right to
back
your
to your
brain.
heart. Well,
Oh
no, it
yeah,
goes right to
your
the
heart.
heart. Yeah, so he actually had a myocarditis. I mean, he didn't die like while he had the tooth root abscess. They treated that, and it was fine, but he had to quit acting because like
Right.
he had myocarditis, and that's
Myocarditis. Isn't that the thing that allows Jedi's to use the Force?
no, those, yes, those are myocarditis. Uh, God damn you, George Lucas, giving the Force uh, scientific. It's like, just let us believe it's like Force powers. Like I want to
Force.
believe I'm
How
fucking
strong?
George Lucas.
How strong is this Ford Mustang? Oh, it's got 450 horsepower.
Force powers. Llama thrust. Um. Anyway, no, myocarditis is an infection of your heart valves. That was the hand gesture for my mom who's watching on YouTube. Our only fan on YouTube. Um, for my mom, that's the universal symbol for heart valves.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's where you get an infection of your heart valves.
Mhm.
There's little tendons on your heart valve called chordae tendini. When you have myocarditis, a lot of times those snap, cause a heart attack. And yeah, Andy Hallett, I believe his name was, had to quit acting, and then 5 years after he quit acting, he passed away due to complications due to his tooth root abscess. So people don't realize how important it is to overall body health. Like, you
Mhm.
have your blood supply pumps right back to your heart. Your heart pumps most of it's every stroke volume, most of your heart goes to your liver and your kidneys because those are your two most important organs. So every time you pump that bacteria straight to there, so you can get hepatic problems, liver problems, as well as renal problems, kidney failure, stuff like that, secondary to tooth problems. And like, I mean, small dogs tend to have more dental disease than big dogs.
Why is that?
More crowding of their teeth.
Okay, that makes sense.
Um,
But that's not to say like you don't have, if you have a mastiff, you should be like, oh, I don't need to worry about his teeth because
I say that, but dude gets more dental care than Mutie, because his tooth just accumulate tartar faster for some reason. So that's not a cut and dry thing, and you should always be looking at your dog's teeth. A large problem we have in my area of expertise, right? My area of expertise, being a general practitioner, my area of general.
Well, that even that scope though is way bigger than 99% of the population's knowledge.
Yeah, no, and I, not to put myself down, I'm just like, someone like the dentist will have on our Fulkerson, who's going to come and hang with us, who just does oncology, Jordan, who's an ophthalmologist, all these people that are specialists, they just know more about that part of the body than I do, than I
That's
ever
their day in and
will.
day out. Yeah, that's their day
It's
in and
all
day
they
out.
focus on.
Right. Exactly.
Dr. Childress always used to say he doesn't even see dogs anymore. It's just a grouping of lymphatics. Anyway, so yeah, dental care is overall important to overall body health. But a large part of the problem we have is convincing people to do it, because people don't want to put their pet under anesthesia, which is outdated. I don't want to say anesthesia doesn't come with risk, because everything, drinking water comes with risk. Like every time you drink water, you can aspirate. Because our bodies are stupidly made, and they put our air hole right next to our mouth hole, and
yeah, and it's just one little switch, like on a train.
Yeah, like dolphins don't have that problem. Reel. Like, why didn't we should have been born with a blowhole.
They also get freaky with the blowhole too.
No, I'm sure. Anyway,
dolphins are deviants.
I guess whales would be. Anyway, so you can aspirate, but yeah, so there's a risk with anesthesia, but the risk, especially for like a small dog, of developing myocarditis secondary to nasty dog teeth, is higher than the risk you'll have with anesthesia. But yeah, like convincing people to do it when they're young, convincing people that like it's okay to pull their dog's teeth, because a lot of people wait until like teeth are really in bad shape, and I'm like, I have to pull these, and they're like, no, I don't want them pulled, and I'm like, it's best for your dog, like they need to come out.
Are doggy dentures a thing?
There's all sorts of shit you can do for dog teeth at a like actual dentist. Like people will do root canals, and they will do caps and like fake teeth and stuff like that.
I was gonna say, or implants, like
like
implants.
I don't, because that is above my area of expertise. That would, I mean, like, if you don't go to your dentist to get your wisdom teeth pulled, right? You go to an oral surgeon, like, so that would be where you would go for that. But yeah, like there's all sorts of crazy shit you can do with dog teeth. I don't know why, like just pull them. The dogs don't use them to chew anyway. They just swallow their food, and if they are chewing, they're using their hard palate, because all their teeth are made for ripping.
That makes sense. That's why every single one of them
is pointed. Yeah.
You looked very much more like a great white shark doing the thrash than a dog.
Yes.
Um, speaking of sharks, and this is totally off topic, but I saw a meme the other day that like lemon sharks are like super friendly to humans, and they like to swim up to humans and like be pet like puppies. And I am convinced though it was written by a lemon shark.
I think lemon sharks are ranked the ninth deadliest shark.
Yeah, yeah, they're just trying to get you to let your
Yeah,
guard down. You know, it's
no.
probably bears are the ones who came up with the just lie down and don't do anything if a bear
Yeah.
tries to attack you.
I typed in 10 deadliest. Um, and first thing to come up is snipers. I'm like, why would I care about that? It's that oh, by that I say when I say deadliest, I mean I watched a episode of Shark Week once, and I think they had lemon shark the ninth.
I loved Shark Week, at least back when it was like still sharks and not like the really bad reenactment fake oh, is submarine shark real? Are
Yeah, and
megalodons still around? Look at this grainy video that was clearly not doctored at all.
um, that same list had the bull shark as 91.
Whoa.
Um, over the great white, bull sharks have half the fatalities. Um, it was just because bull sharks tend to inhabit waters with people more often than great whites do. But
Hmm.
when a great white bites something, it dies.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, this current list that I'm looking at has great whites at number one, and lemon shark is not on there.
Mm.
Tiger shark at number two, bull sharks number three, the requiem for a dream shark. Anyway, sand tiger shark is the fifth deadliest shark with zero fatalities.
Oh,
So, for people
it's,
that are afraid of sharks, remember that we kill more of them in a
yeah.
day than they've ever killed of us.
Um, where's the nurse shark on there? Because I think nurse sharks are pretty high too, aren't they? Top 10?
Uh,
Because they're
this one list that I found in my very brief has blacktip reef as sixth, seventh as the wobegon, which is a tiny shark, and I don't know how
mhm,
it got on this list. Hammerhead, also zero fatalities.
mhm,
Spinner, bronze water shark.
mhm.
Um,
The Wabagong is kind of the same as the nurse shark. They they are one of they're one of the few sharks that don't have to constantly swim, so
yeah,
they like lay on the bottom like in weight, and then they get stepped on, and then it's a reactive bite. So what was number four?
uh, I would tell you, but I have to scroll all the way up, and it's doing weird things now. The web
Well,
page is screwing up.
in case you
Uh,
don't like our talks on politics or talks on preventative care, we hope you at least learned something about shark bites.
shark bites.
And you said
Um,
great white
the
sharks when
the
they bite
requiem
something.
shark, which I actually had never heard of.
I've never heard of that either.
Mm-mm. I mean, I'm not an oceanographer or a marine biologist, so it makes sense. Sharks are a fascination for me. I have been swimming with nurse sharks and great whites.
Were you in a
And
cage with the great whites?
yes, yes. Uh, it like ran into the cage too, and like the cage is more just for your mental like well-being rather than like actual protection. Because if they really wanted to tear through it, they can. Um, but actually, so I was in Australia for a while, and I went cage diving on the Neptune Islands with great whites, and I went on. The boat was called the Calypso Star. Um, it was the only place I could find a day trip. I came home from Australia, and I was watching Shark Week with my one of my girlfriends at the time,
Hmm.
and had fallen asleep and woken up, and like it was the deadliest waters. Number 5 were the Neptune Islands, and the boat, the Calypso Star, and the guide who took us down there was on Shark Week, and we were both like,
Oh, nice.
That's cool. Like, so that's my link to Shark Week.
That's awesome. Yeah, the Requiem shark is kind of a stupid looking shark.
Yeah, it's also, like, according to this, has 0 fatalities. So
is the bull
shark
the last
5 fatalities?
5.
Yeah,
and they look like they're kind of out in the middle of nowhere though. So like, wondering how much of that fatality rate is because like just lack of treatment right away.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that's the deadliest sharks. The top 3 are because they come into areas with people, right?
Mm-hmm. How many does the great white have?
59 fatalities, 351 known attacks.
Mm. Now, if they bite Chuck Norris, they die, right?
Yeah,
Not
well,
Chuck
that's
Norris.
everything, because Chuck Norris is actually poisonous. But if Chuck Norris bites you, you also die. So
exactly.
you can go back to our poisonous versus venomous episode. So Chuck Norris is one of the animals that is both.
It's Chuck Norris and like 2 snakes, right?
Yeah. Okay, we should move forward.
Yes, we very should. Another preventative care, skin care, and I'd count ears kind of with the, like, I guess external ears, skin.
Well, so a mistake people make is actually bathing their dogs too often.
Mm-hmm.
Or cleaning the ears too often is another thing. You don't want to do it too much, because then you do wash away like the normal flora.
How often should you bathe a dog?
I tell people no more than every 2 weeks.
No more than every 2 weeks?
Yeah, but I mean, it's very dog dependent.
Okay.
And that's going to vary based on like who you talk to. Yes, but you can prevent ear infections if you're cleaning fairly regularly. Again, I tell people not more than every 2 weeks, unless we have like a medical reason. So like there's times where I'll say, hey, use this cleaner every other day for this many weeks because we're treating an infection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, bathing, definitely. You can predispose them to skin infections, dermatitis, ear infections if you're cleaning too much. So keeping it to a minimum, but remember, like if your dog has allergies, that can predispose them to both ear and skin infections, food or environmental. Hypothyroid disease can predispose them to skin infection because their thyroid stops producing thyroxine, and for some reason that decreases their skin defense.
Is it even more vital for like a younger dog, like a puppy, to be bathed less as they're developing these?
Not necessarily. I think your older dogs tend to have like more problems because they're just like more fragile, right? Like,
Okay.
but I don't have actual like data on that. Puppies, you know, you need to bathe them all the time because they're constantly shitting and pissing all over themselves.
That's fair.
Like, yeah, every puppy in the world. I talk to people and they're like, how often is too often to bathe them? And I'm like, for you, whenever he needs it.
So as needed, and until they figure out how not to piss and shit on themselves.
Training thing.
All right. I would assume that there are specifics, like within different breeds versus. No, I guess I'll just stop there first. Different breeds are. I'm assuming like every breed should the owner, if they don't know, they should really look into like what the specific preventative care is.
Well, grooming requirements per breed are a big thing, and you should always look into that before you adopt a dog, or purchase a dog, I guess. Anyway, like obviously, dude needs a lot more grooming than Mutie.
Right.
But Mutie gets groomed too because she stinks. so bad. But I mean, so they're actually a really good example, though. Dude has longer hair. He's a golden
Mhm.
doodle for anyone that this is their first episode. So he gets mats. If I let his hair get too long, too dirty, those mats can predispose him to skin infections because, like, the mat will hold on bacteria.
Mhm.
Beauty's a French bulldog, so she has facial folds. With her face folds, moisture can build up in there. She gets a lot of tear staining in those folds. So
Mhm.
there is something called facial fold dermatitis. So that's something that dogs can get where they just get a skin infection in between the facial folds. Mutie also has really bad skin allergies. So, like, she gets an injection of Cytopoint every month and occasionally gets a medication called Zenrelia, which is for allergies. Um, Again, back to talking about prevention. One of the reasons every time I bring something up, like every time you're bringing something up, like
Mhm.
dental care, um, uh, skincare, things like this. Um, all these things are things we find regularly on
Mhm.
physical exam. So, like, when you're coming into a vet and they do a physical, they're not doing a physical um, like for fun, right? Like, our
Right.
physical exam is one of the most important things that we do because we regularly find ear infections, skin problems. We'll talk about your pet being overweight, which can predispose them to diabetes. We'll talk about your pet, maybe being underweight. Um, we'll talk about, is your pet scooting? Let's get his anal glands expressed because that we don't want to get an anal gland abscess.
Mhm.
Yada yada yada. Like, there's so many things that we talk about during that exam that are so important to just preventative care. And a lot of times we catch those things on that exam before they become problematic.
Right.
If you're, you come in, you're like, hey, Kent, Banks is like, you have to call me Dr. Morton in the hospital. Um, you'd be like, hey, Dr. Morton, Banks is like really, really itching. And I'd be like, let's, mate, doesn't look like he has any skin infections. Let's start either this, that, or this and see if
Mhm.
we can get it under control rather than you coming back, a month from now and now, hey, Banks is digging at his ears and like he's got this hair loss here and I think he has fleas because I'm a piece of shit who didn't keep him on. I like this role playing as you. Um, I'm a piece of shit who didn't keep him on flea and tick prevention, and I also have a small penis. My name is Corey Johnson.
Well, I, Dr. Kent Morton, also have a really small penis. It's micro.
Yeah.
That's
There's a reason we refer to it as an innie. Anyway.
so talking like with the breeds.
Hey,
Hey, dude,
my doorbell's ringing.
you
Nope,
want to go
I'm
check it?
fine.
Oh shit! I thought Kent's backdrop was Rome. No, it's Washington D.C.
Hi, I can't talk. Stop.
I'm gonna leave this in. I'm not even gonna cut this out. This is gold. So Kent, I just realized that the camera view that you're sitting in, like the camera is like right at like Abraham Lincoln's cock. Like slide out of the see.
Oh, nice. Yeah. The view from my camera is from the tip of Lincoln's penis.
the
We
giant statue of him sitting there because
we
anyone
just
listening is
do
not going to know what he's talking about, what we're talking about.
riveting content.
Anyway, so preventative maintenance or preventative care rather can be can literally be anything. Um and like you said, can be breed specific. So like every dog that comes through may not need preventative care on their ears, but if it's a dog that has like I'm assuming like a hound dog, I think hound dogs have historically had
Yeah,
bad
like
ear problems.
basset hounds because they have those big floppy ears. Doodles tend to have a lot of ear issues because there's sometimes they just have a lot of hair in there. Um, Golden retrievers tend to be really prone to allergies and therefore ear issues, um, stuff like that.
So
Um,
so what about, is it ever too early to get on supplements for dogs? Like especially like dogs that are a little bit bigger, Germans, I think even pit bulls are longer, wiry ones that have like historically have joint issues.
mhm. And no, never too early. Um, there's some studies that show that joint supplements earlier in life are like very helpful when they get older because like you're kind of protecting those
Kind of
um,
padding your stats early on.
yeah, I mean it's like like anything else. If you're using it early and often, you're gonna help yourself out. That being said, always be suspicious of your joint supplements. Why do I say that? There was a study done on vitamins in humans that showed that 98% of all supplements in for sale at like your over-the-counter supplements have no trace element of the active ingredient on it because nothing
Oh,
oversees the supplement industry. Um,
so what
I
you're saying is the best supplements to get is like Infowars's
Yes,
brand of supplements.
absolutely. If you want to be like very red and like I think they are now offering the gay frog water from Infowars.
Does that prevent you from turning into a gay frog, or does that turn you into a gay
I
frog?
think it turns you into a gay frog. I haven't taken enough yet.
Oh, so they leaned into it. Okay.
Yeah. Like, well, no, I thought Alex Jones was always very pro gay frog.
I He has always been something very.
We
So
riveting content, riveting.
so breed specific, but then also um, age obviously can make a big difference, but it's better
Mhm.
to start them on a lot of these preventative things the earlier they
Earlier,
are.
yeah.
Um, Obviously, like you wouldn't put a puppy on like a German Shepherd puppy on arthritis medicine early
I
on,
mean, so arthritis
but
medicine is like pain management, but I
that's fair.
certainly would talk if I found like because German shepherds are really prone to hip dysplasia.
Hmm.
And so if I found a German Shepherd with hip dysplasia, I certainly would talk to you about putting them on joint supplements even as a puppy. Like, why not? Because like
Right,
we know that they're gonna have arthritis in those hips, so like, why not start it now? Um, Worst case scenario, it's not gonna hurt.
right. You just spent some money. Well, you also are in the pocket of big supplement too,
Big
right?
supplement, yes. There is not a industry that I'm not in the pocket of. I've recently been accused of being in the pocket of big milk, so which
Uh,
like is baffling to me because I just said that I find raw milk gross, but I also said when said that I said I find all milk gross,
that is
especially
true.
raw milk, and like now I'm in the pocket of big milk. Like,
um, one of now one other one that I feel like is extremely important, and I think we may have talked about this. I think more off air than on. Um, that probably the most important preventative medicine is flea and tick control because they
yeah.
can bring so many diseases. With I mean, a lot of the diseases that they probably get that you get vaccinated for, how
Well,
many of them come via mosquitoes, come via black biting flies, come via ticks, come via fleas.
so yeah, your heartworm medication is technically like a dewormer.
Mm,
So like, but like, um, Dewormer also does prevent, in a lot of cases, intestinal parasites. You should still have a yearly fecal because dogs are disgusting and eat everything.
Hmm.
As much as I love my dogs, both of them are disgusting, disgusting creatures. Um, and yeah, anyway, but your heartworm prevention also will prevent intestinal parasites. Uh, Fleas don't. I mean, well, fleas carry the plague, but um, not necessarily. Uh, like you're not necessarily going to get that these days, right? Like unless you're out west, and you
Hmm.
can get the plague out west. It carried in fleas out there, but Lyme disease, which is zoonotic, people can get it. It's carried by ticks. There's Ehrlichia and Anaplasma that are carried by ticks, and we're seeing a lot
Hmm.
more of that. That used to be like more of a southern disease because it was southern ticks that were carrying it, but our southern ticks have definitely worked their way up north due to like things like Hurricane Katrina and all the hurricanes that we've had down south. Of course, I picked the one that's 20 years old. Um, all the hurricanes, every time there's a hurricane, a bunch of rescues go down south and grab a bunch of dogs that from the rescues down there and bring them up north, and they're doing a great service. And I'm in no way like putting down the service that they're doing, but a lot
Right.
of times that brings ticks with them. Global warming, a lot of those ticks are naturally migrating up north.
Hmm.
And so we're seeing a lot more Ehrlichia and Anaplasma. Both of those diseases can cause basically like an immune mediated hemolytic anemia, where like your body attacks your red and white blood cells
Okay.
because they live on the surface of your red and white blood cells. For we'll keep it as simple as possible, and then your body sees them and says, "Oh shit! Like let's attack that thing," and it doesn't. It attacks like the red cells, and
And
it
it becomes collateral damage, if you will.
yeah. So yeah, good term for it. But on top of that, there's other diseases that ticks carry that honestly we just don't even know that they exist. Like there's things like babesia, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, um, and tick prevention prevents those. But they're finding new tick-borne illness all the time because they're just like disgusting creatures.
Hmm.
Um,
And a lot of them, like Lyme, mutates so fast too.
yeah, and yeah, and on so they're finding new diseases all the time. And on top of that, like those diseases are hard for us to diagnose because we don't know what they are. So like you'd be surprised. I had a mentor of mine that has seen one case of Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and to figure out what it was, he had to refer it to a neurologist. There's a tick-borne illness that causes paralysis in dogs. Yeah, and actually one of my classmates got like kind of like her 15 minutes of fame because in yeah during her externship
Hmm.
um she they were so she's in her clinical year. They were about to be put down this dog that couldn't walk, and I think it was or Saint Bernard, I want to say. And um she found a tick on it, and she was like, wait, like don't like put down this dog. Like, what if this is like, tick-borne illness? And they took off the tick, and the dog lived.
Oh wow.
I was on externship at the same time, and I was turned on my car, and like it was the morning show in St. Joe, and
Uh-huh.
the guys on the morning show were talking about my classmate, and I was like, yeah, that's weird.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was weird. They were like, "Hey, this girl just saved this dog, and she's like not even a doctor yet because she was in her clinical year. We weren't technically doctors then."
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean, I
you weren't having people hit you up for free
no,
medical
they
advice
still
yet.
were. They've been doing that since I was working at a hospital before I was even in vet school. But
Oh, okay.
I, I want to say she went to her like externship in like Oregon or like way out west. Um,
Hmm.
so like it was like a big deal, national news. She got like her 15 minutes of fame there. Which
Yeah.
is fun. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Anyway.
I'm about wrapped up, but I did want to ask, like, what is your anti-stupid argument for the people who will be like, who will bring up the outliers, the ones that like, but the dog was vaccinated, had flea and tick disease, or prevention, or flea and tick prevention, um, did everything right, and it still got lepto, or still got something, and it ended up dying because of that, even though it did all the things. Like, for the people who cherry pick, because that, I'm sure that happens, right? Like,
Yeah, that happens
nothing's
all the
nothing's
time.
100% foolproof, right?
There's this magazine called Dogs Naturally magazine, which is like terrible, but the South Bend Tribune used to have a monthly article by one of their main doctors. And this woman wrote in about how flea and tick prevention had killed all of her dogs. And like, yeah. So, and this guy is like anti everything. Um, he doesn't want you to get flea and tick prevention. Dogs Naturally magazine released an article that how, and they were like, look at experts say this, and every expert that they interviewed was a contributor to Dogs Naturally magazine. I was like, this is the worst article. Um,
Well, to
but
be fair,
that was
they didn't say independent expert.
no. But strangely, they all had the same opinion. And
Weird.
that one was just about food. Like, it wasn't even about flea and tick prevention. This woman was like, I gave my dog one dose of a certain flea and tick medication, and then 3 years later, bam, he got cancer. And
3 years later.
yes, and it was like a 13-year-old German Shepherd who got like a very common German Shepherd cancer. And the contributor was like, see, flea and tick prevention kills your dog. And I was like, yes, that is exactly the message that I take from one dose of a flea and tick prevention for that a dog got cancer at 13. um uh yeah, 3 years later after one dose. I
I
mean,
got the COVID shot, and then after 10 years later and chain smoking my whole life, I developed lung cancer. It's clearly the
clearly.
COVID vaccine.
Well, and I mean, I was talking to a client and she was like, my husband got the COVID vaccine and then had a heart attack. And I was like, did he have COVID? And she was like, well, he had Omicron. And I was like, that's probably what caused his heart attack. And she was like, it was the vaccine. And I was like, your stupidity doesn't make you an expert on vaccines. The problem with people that are the problem with people that are outliers is that they're loud. And so, yes, like there are dogs that get all of their vaccines and still get lepto. No vaccine is perfect. There are dogs that get their Lyme vaccine and still get Lyme disease. There are dogs on flea tick and heartworm
I
prevention
mean,
that still get flea tick and heartworm
there
flea tick and heartworm
there's
diseases.
people who eat perfectly, run every day, exercise, take really good care of themselves, don't smoke, do drugs, drink anything, and then drop dead of a heart attack at 32. I mean, like,
Yeah,
outliers are outliers for a reason.
yeah, and like we throw those out, but like the problem is like people who uh people who have dogs that do everything right and live in perfect health until they're 13 years old. They're not like, well, my dog could have potentially been exposed to lepto. Like, they don't know. Like,
Hmm.
there's a line from Usual Suspects, because I can't go an entire episode without making pop culture references multiple times. But the line from The Usual Suspects is, the greatest trick the devil ever played was tricking the world into believing he didn't exist.
Hmm.
And vaccines have been so great for mankind in general that since the advent of the vaccine, we have literally doubled our life expectancy.
Yeah.
Um, and in 1900, the top 10 killers of people were all infectious diseases. now the top 10 killers of people are all old age diseases that we get from being old, like heart attacks and cancers and high blood pressure and all these things like that. And that is 100% on the fact that we developed vaccines. So
Well,
like,
the high blood pressure piece, though, I mean, is that really an old person one, or is it just like people like you and me who are like Bears and Lions fans? Like, I
yeah,
feel like
well,
that's contributed to high
high
blood
blood
pressure more than
pressure
anything else.
is definitely higher in the population of Bears fans and Lions fans worldwide. That's scientific fact. So I mean, like, but that's the thing. It's like people sit here and they go, well, like this, and this, and it's like you look at the data, and um, I mean, was almost wiped out until like recently. We've eradicated smallpox. We eradicated rotavirus. We have literally like beaten nature, which is such a fucking hard thing to do because nothing wants to kill you more than nature.
Yeah.
Like
And nature changes its tactics on how it can kill you,
yeah,
and it's got a millions of weapons at its disposal.
yeah, and like I mean, people argue about natural immunity, and I'm like, it vaccines are natural immunity. Like it is the same process. There's nothing unnatural about it. Like we're just weakening it. Like it's not a different type of immunity, but people have this idea that something somehow is different if you get a vaccine, and it is 100% not. The only thing different is you don't die from the virus or the bacteria that infected you, and it's they're just beautiful things that have changed the world. If we want to talk about things that are all natural, an all natural approach to life is just kind of stupid because like arsenic is all natural. Like something being natural doesn't mean it's better for you. Like
a bear attacking you is 100% natural.
That's 100% natural. Arsenic is all natural, and it's one of the most toxic substances in the world. Like mercury is all natural, and people complain about it being in vaccines, and even though it's not elemental mercury, it's ethyl mercury. Yeah. It's very, very different and eliminated no differently than alcohol. And in microdoses, which the dose makes the poison. So if you have a lot of bacteria in your body that makes you sick, you are more likely to die than if you get a small weakened dose and let your body take care of it on its own. And yes, the people that have those problems, my heart goes out to them. Like the people who did everything right and their dog developed something and died. Like my heart goes out to them because losing a pet is very, very, very hard. But that doesn't mean the science is wrong. It means you were unlucky, and that's unfortunate for you. And I'm sorry about that. Like I truly am. Anyway, I think that was like my longest rant of any episode we've had this season.
No, it wasn't.
No,
you've had way longer, I'm sure. I think that's just about everything. Do you have any final words you want to say, or do you want to leave it at where you did?
I think I used my entire day's allotment of words in that last rant. So
it was good. I will say it was very poignant, very well spoken. So thanks for doing it.
Yay. All right, let's wrap this up.
All right, man. Really hope that you take this seriously. It's very important to us, and that's why we've touched on it several times. And I'd be willing to bet dollars to donuts we will touch on it again in other episodes in some way, some capacity. That preventative care is incredibly important. Like Kent said, an ounce of prevention is worth two in the bush.
I was gonna say I hate you for the dollars to donuts comment, but now it's definitely the mixed metaphor comment.
Why can't you just double it up?
I mean, how do you make me
Twice
hate
the
you
hate.
more twice in the same sentence?
It's a refined skill that I have. Anyway, I have been Corey the Common Idiot, humbly gracing your radio or phone
Phone
and
waves.
phone waves. And I've been with Kent, the Dr. Idiot, and we just want you to have the day you deserve. Take care of your dogs, take care of yourself. I'm going to do it, Kent. I'm going to do it. Bye!
I hate it every time. All right, let me export this.
I hope it was still recording when you said I hated it every time.
Yes, it was. I actually,
good.
I thought I hit stop. I hit record again, so it just didn't do anything.
Oh, okay. All right, perfect. Because that'll be a better way to end than my bye. All right.
Okay.
Oh shit! I should probably stop this too here.
I gotta let